Hello, hello, and welcome to the Fresh Labs live show number two. I am Johnny Rodriguez, Strategic Innovation Director here at Fresh Consulting, part of Fresh Labs, based out of Austin, Texas. And with me is our Technical Innovation Director. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Elisha Terada. I'm the Technical
Awesome.
Innovation Director at Fresh as well.
Excellent. Welcome to our second ever show. We got to do something about the music there. I've noticed that the abrupt ending of that to the start of the live show, we probably want to have a nice little transition. We'll iron out some of those kinks as we get into things today. But I am super excited to be here with you, Elisha. We are covering some pretty cool things today. Just so everyone gets the structure, we're going to start with a word of the day on every live stream that we do. Last week we talked about extended reality. So if you didn't see that, definitely go check that out. You can go check that out at Fresh Labs. We have that on YouTube. You can search us there. You can see that's I think our hour-long stream that we had last week. You can go see that. But we covered extended reality, and then we covered some relevant news topics around the metaverse. And so this week we are going to kind of follow the same structure. And towards the end, our marketing coordinator Lee has prepared a question for us that we have not seen, and we'll kind of tackle that together and get opinions from both of us. And so
Yeah,
we'll kind of follow that path today.
yeah, excited for the second show. And today we're also going live on the LinkedIn and Twitter. And
Yep.
if you have any comments, please, just anytime, add comments. We'll try to answer as many as possible. Cool. So
That's a good point.
yeah, we can get
Yeah, let's
started
dive
with,
into it.
with our word of the day.
This is such a big word for
Yeah.
2021, 2022, Elisha. We could say that the word is the blockchain or a blockchain. Why don't we
I think
start
that's
with your definition of that word?
Yeah, I think the same problem exists for metaverse. Like, is it a metaverse, metaverses, the metaverse? And apparently, the agreed upon opinion is to just pick one and be consistent. Like, I've seen
Yep.
many articles, you know, mention it in different way. A blockchain, blockchains, on blockchain, off blockchain. What is all
Yep.
these blockchains, right? And I think it's significant today because in the past, blockchain was more thought of as way to have a proof of your financial transactions. Basically, like, okay, no more central banking, no more, central control. Let's have our own control over the flow of the money, right? And I think that's, you could almost say Bitcoin basically coined the term blockchain because that was the easy grab for people to understand what it is. But today,
Yep.
I'd say it has more meaning to it because all these Web3 tech, all the terms you hear about Web3, it's all about applications with the blockchain as a backing, whether it's the
Mm,
NFT that confirms, oh, yeah, in this metaverse, we can confirm that you own this avatar. So therefore, you're allowed to wear this avatar in this metaverse world. And without the blockchain, there is no like a verifying of the ownership with the NFT asset that's being created by community. In the past, you can do in-app purchase, right? Like I can buy avatar in any old games as in-app
mm-hmm.
purchase, but that purchase is directly tied to the company's database where like they say you own it. But in this case, I know I can verify that I own it. Like it's not sitting in someone's like closed database. It's like open in public that I can prove. So I'd say all the Web3 applications, why it matters today is because it has the backing of blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
All these things we talk about, like a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, or NFT collections, all these things behind the scenes, it's all blockchain. Jordan, do you have
Got it.
anything to add? Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I think I often always say Web3/blockchain as synonymous, but I think that you gave an interesting perspective there of Web3 being more of like the application, where the blockchain is more of like the back end of what's kind of functioning there. I think the only thing I'll add is just for those that are maybe more on the basic side of the blockchain, you touched on it. but it's essentially like a digital ledger. So like a place where you can digitally go and see the transactions, and it's duplicated and distributed across an entire network of computer systems, right? And so it can be, it's hard to like take down a blockchain because it's distributed across different things. So it is decentralized, like you talked about, and it essentially can record and show that proof of transaction, and allows you to kind of track assets. So like, yeah, you talked about Bitcoin. I like Ethereum. Most of the NFT purchasing and investing I do is with Ethereum. That's a blockchain network, right? Litecoin. There's quite a few
Mhm.
cryptocurrencies that are on the blockchain, on these blockchain networks, um, and so yeah, it's a pretty big deal, I would say. I mean,
It
it's
powers
been a pretty
many
big deal for
things,
a while.
right? It
It
powers so
does,
many
yeah.
things that you don't almost realize it's the blockchain is the backbone of everything, and all these surface level interactions like the DeFi cryptocurrencies are just built
Yep.
on top of
On top
the
of it, yep.
blockchain. Yeah, it's like the use case is the finance, and blockchain is the backbone of
Yeah.
the
And
basic
some would even
technology.
say that like the leveraging of blockchain can even be more secure than like your standard debit card or credit card transactions, for a number of reasons. But it does a pretty good job of, like, you don't need to provide sensitive information like you would with your debit card or credit card, and so it really reduces down the risk for financial information being compromised or your identity being stolen. And so like there's like lots and lots of benefits, and so we're seeing a lot of big companies, like you're seeing names that were banking companies that worked with dollars, right? And maybe extra, other currency, now getting into the blockchain and kind of picking some stuff there. So very very interesting uh, insights there. I think it's a good foundational word to know, because when we talk about the metaverse and it being a blockchain based metaverse, it's like, wait, what does that even mean? I thought blockchain was like Bitcoin. Like, how does that even work? And
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
essentially like you have to kind of know the foundation that kind of builds upon, other technology and structure to be able to provide something that you're consuming from like a browser or your mobile phone or a VR headset or something like that. And so it's a really good foundational kind of word to understand.
Yeah, and I think we will hopefully expand more in the future live shows where you will try to keep mentioning the same
Yeah,
basic concepts again and again. So if you keep watching and follow, you should stick to your mind over time. I think it's one of those things that if you hear it once, like you kind of have a vague understanding, but until you hear many times, like you might not stick to your brain. So if you're new, completely fine, keep following
yep.
us, and we'll teach you these concepts over time. So
Excellent.
speaking of the metaverse, Johnny, we have exciting news, right, to dive into next.
We do. We're going to jump into three news articles that we think are worthy enough to talk about on our live stream show. There's been a lot of other news. I think every day I'm seeing like 10 or 15 things that are like, some of them blow my mind a little bit, and then some of them are like, oh, not as eventful. But we will dive into this first topic. Elisha, we both have seen this, but would love for you to kind of cover this topic on a sneak peek that we saw this last week with a certain Mark Zuckerberg and Project Cambria. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I wonder if I should just share a screen to show. But before we dive in, if you have seen the VR headsets, and maybe many of you are owners of the Meta Quest 2 or Meta Quest 1, and you could say this sneak peek that Mark Zuckerberg and their team has announced, you could say it's a Meta Quest 3 or the higher end version, more advanced version of the VR headsets that we have seen in the past. And let me quickly show the YouTube footage that they released. And I'm not going to play with the sound, just lightly scrubbing through. But as you play the movie, you'll
Wait, this
get
is
to
one
the.
I haven't. This is one I haven't seen. I thought the one I saw was with Mark Zuckerberg, so I'm excited to
Oh,
see this.
yes. Yes, Mark Zuckerberg did his own awkward playing with the prototype, but I think this captures like more marketing oriented edit. I think captures it
Perfect.
really well. Yeah, so Project Cambria preview. And in the past, when you had headset on, you have seen this black and white screen when you're setting up, like, oh, just make sure you can see your surrounding. It will give you the feed of the black and white screen. But in this video footage, you can actually see that there's a colored element in the screen where this person is interacting with an object with the camera feed on at the same time. And this might be a good representation where they're collaborating together on some kind of 3D modeling. And you can see that they're holding the headset and then seeing the colored object placed within your room. This is actual room. This is not a virtual reality room made in spatial or something like that. This is actually your room. So you can see that on your table, as if you have the actual model, you can actually see the object being placed. And last week's live show, Johnny covered the topic of the XR, and that was our word of the day. And Johnny, if you have that graphic that you could share while I
I
play the
do.
footage, that would be cool to kind of go back to the concept. And in the meantime, I'm going through the footage where you can say, okay, room scale. Here is the room, and I'm going to make sure I stand here. And now I'm picking up the hammer from the room. And this used to be where you're actually immersed fully into the VR world. It was all fake world. But now you see these graphical interactive components in your own room. Just like what we used to see in the AR when we played Pokemon Go, like we saw when we go outside and you see Pokemons running around, right? And this is basically the very similar idea where you get to have the feed from the AR or the real time, real world feed and mixed with the virtual world. And now I think Johnny has the
I
graphic
do have it if
ready.
you want to put it back on the
Yeah,
screen. I definitely have some questions about this compared to what I saw earlier. So I'm going to let you showcase this. Do you want me to share my
yeah,
window again on the XR? Yeah, so this is the graphic I showed last week that kind of showed that mix, right? So we're looking at virtual reality when this is what's kind of crazy about it is like there's no glass or, you're not seeing anything through this, right? But Project Cambria has all these cameras. There's actually quite a few new cameras. Allegedly, there's a lot of new cameras. We don't actually know. They haven't showed the headset, but they have cameras facing towards your eyes, some facing towards your mouth, some facing external. And with that, they're able to kind of connect them all to be able to have you look right through. And so now it's becoming more of like, oh, it's getting into the augmented reality space. So what we're talking about here is Project Cambria is going to be a mixed reality headset. Um, is what we're so it's kind of getting out of the realm of just VR and getting into the looking at your space and environment and things like that.
yeah. And I think that's what's cool about it because in the past, we have seen the AR, right? On our phones, like you can do Pokemon Go and then you can see the AR component, but that would never become a VR headset. But with the Project Cambria, you can have fully immersive virtual world only experience. And you can also, at times, mix the reality into it during some usage of other application. And I think that's what's cool about it, that we haven't really seen the mixed version. And up until now, when you say mixed reality, people don't really understand because, well, I have never seen it. So I won't understand the term, even if you explain, right? And just to show the original footage, I think where we got excited, where Mark was playing with this, blurred out device, and at first I was like, what's going on with Mark's head there? But you can see
It's all
exactly where
pixelated,
it's
but it's so
pixelated.
weird because like halfway through the video, it then like shows the headset and it's like, we're not going to show you the headset today, and so it's all pixelated, and then you're going to see this in just a second. I don't want to distract from how cool this is, but oh, what is that? That's the headset.
Yeah.
So it kind of give you a preview. I mean, it's not giving you all the specs, but it's giving you quite a lot.
Yeah, what I got really excited about is that, but you can try on the Quest soon. So I think there will be like a preview version of it available where it's maybe black and white feed still, and with the
That's
colored object.
Yeah, that was the confusing part of this. So I just chatted you this link. I think this is the one I saw. I think I'm actually a little confused because I think that Project Cambria is supposed to be a color pass through, but the video you showed the black and white, and some of the videos I've been seeing have been showing it in color. So I wonder if that was either an older video of Project Cambria or if it's a, yeah, like you're saying, like it's an earlier version of it. It's a little confusing because I think that yeah, if you exit from that, what does that one say
So
for?
that's May
Yeah,
12th.
that's it from MetaQuest. Interesting. So
I
maybe it's not as accurate as
wonder I wonder if the this video is showing with the existing meta. So
that
black and
must be
white
it.
feed, right?
Because
Yeah.
I have heard that the existing Quest 2 will also actually has passed through today. It's not very good. It's black and white and it's kind of blurry. But I hear that the quality is going to increase on Cambria as well as. So if you click on the private chat I just gave you, that actually will show you another YouTube video that shows the color pass through stuff that I was just talking about. Um, and it's showing you the HD color pass through. So it's kind of the same kind of game stuff you just saw, but it's actually going to go and show color pass through, right? So you're seeing a guitar and then you're seeing everything in color with plants. So I think you're right. It will, the pass through platform as well as this game, from what I've read, will be accessible on your Quest 2s as they exist today. But if you want that color pass through with higher quality and getting into that like richer mixed reality experience like you're seeing here, that's going to be pretty awesome. I'm excited to
Yeah.
play this actually. Having played
Yeah.
Pokemon Go quite a lot, and actually I picked it back up this weekend, Elisha, because my kids, who are really young, watched some Pokemon, and we actually started playing it on my phone. And I'm like, man, it's so inconvenient to hold this phone in my hand and like have to have my
Yeah.
kids swipe. And I can't wait to have something I can wear. And so we're starting to get a little glimpse of this future where you're actually able to wear and interact with the world and have some really immersive games like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely probably record that when we get our hands on. I think it's going to be available as experimental app for the existing Quest, I assume. So we can play with that on the black and white feed and then record a footage of us maybe using it. And then when of course, the Cambria comes out, hopefully we can get early hands on. But if not, we'll, get in line with just like everyone else. And then we'll, jump on and review that firsthand for sure.
Great. Great. Alrighty. Well, let's move on to our next topic today. This is one I'm really excited about too. This is coming from a platform that I've used for quite a while and I've been watching. I remember them being demoed with the HoloLens on stage when they announced the HoloLens, along with some other things. So spatial.io is where you can find them. And Spatial is what a platform that we at Fresh Consulting have chosen as a place where we want to try to have our virtual headquarters. Where we're meeting people. Elisha, this might be something we end up talking about on a live stream or talking about from a content perspective, but being able to, instead of just having a Zoom call where we're seeing each other in 2D, being able to use kind of a 3D environment where you can meet and interact with people, have meetings. Maybe you want to have your NFT gallery. Maybe you want to host a meetup. So this is one of the platforms that exists for that. It's targeted more for professionals, and it's called Spatial. So there's some recent news with Spatial that it was kind of funny. Um, Lots of articles were calling it like the metaverse has legs now, and it was like something about legs, and everything was about legs. This particular article that I'm going to share is coming from VentureBeat, and let me share my screen here. There we go. And in this particular article, they're talking about a new integration that they have. So if you've been following us on Fresh Labs, we actually interviewed Timu Toke, who is the CEO of Ready Player Me, and he had told us about some really exciting things. This is where I want to cue a clip of him saying, "We have exciting things coming next month and the next, the month after that." Since we talked to him, they've had quite a lot of new integrations, and this is one that they've had in the works. From my understanding with the conversation recently, is they've had it in the works for over a year. They've been working with Spatial to get this out, and so officially they launched Ready Player Me, an integration which is it's an avatar, a interoperable avatar system that you can go and visit Spatial, you can visit Mona, you can go visit all these different kind of virtual environments and metaverse environments and bring your avatar with you, right? The one that you've customized, the clothes that you've chosen to wear, and it becomes your kind of interoperable avatar across different metaverses. And so Spatial has integrated now with Ready Player Me, and and it's been really interesting. They had a whole promo video around it. Um, and I think like there's quite a lot that's in here, but I wanted to talk about two little quotes here that they had that says Spatial believes deeply in open and interoperable standards, so we're excited to adopt an avatar solution that enables users' identities to persist across experiences. We are driven by providing a home for everyone, uh, anyone from the creator premiering a new collection at an exhibition to watch parties, runway shows, or people looking for a place online for mental calm and freedom of expression. And so that integration with an avatar platform, right, has been a pretty big deal. They were integrated with Avatar SDK, which is an interview that we have pending with their CEO, and that's been really interesting. And they were partnered with them, and even the CEO there had told us like there's that uncanny valley issue, right? Where it's like you only have the upper half of your body, similar to what Meta does with Horizon. That's what Spatial had, is this upper half of the body and then kind of a photorealistic face. Elisha, can you tell me like what your experience was with the kind of the avatar system Spatial had before, and maybe like any impressions you had from that?
Yeah, when I first created the avatar, or maybe when I saw your avatar first, I was like, "Whoa, wait, is this Johnny? It looks pretty close to it, but not quite Johnny." And it felt like a little bit weird because it looks so much like you, and when your body doesn't quite move like you, like my mind gets a little bit confused on like, wait, it's Johnny, but it's a weird version of Johnny because he looks so real. So my first impression was definitely closer to the Uncanny Valley, where it's so close but slightly off that my mind just get interpret as a little bit weird. Versus I think more avatars in the other avatar space, like, or the metaverse space, where it's pretty much cartoon. Like I don't think much of it. Like, oh, Johnny chose this, head and body, and like I know it's not supposed. I know you're supposed to make it look like you, but I know like it's a fake. So it's like, well, yeah, it's just a stylized, maybe better looking Johnny in the other metaverse space, but in the spatial, it felt like
Yeah,
little bit too real and looked weird. Oh yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
there it
and you
is.
look
I
like
found it.
yeah, and you look really mad, right, by default.
I'm like,
So I was like,
because it tells you don't smile. So then I'm like, 7 o'clock in the morning taking my selfie, using Spatial, and it's like the proportions are wrong. And part of the problem with this is that um like as it relates to avatar platforms, we can go on a whole spiel about avatar platforms, and we love talking about like the interoperability and the need for like for all of that. But the biggest reason I think that this is a big deal, I mean, this looks pretty scary looking. The biggest deal isn't that it became more photorealistic. The biggest deal is that Ready Player Me is really focused on self expression, right? So if you look at their roadmap this year, they're going to have body weight will be a different thing. Skin color is already a thing, right? The number of things that you can wear, the body types, how you want to express yourself. Do you want to have an NFT head as Dead Mouse, right? Which is one of the ones I have. Do you want to express yourself for it to look like you or not? They have quite a lot of ways to kind of express who you are. And that's what they say adding legs to our avatars is so much more than just a feature update. So it isn't about seeing legs, it's about transforming an experience and opening the door for a host of a whole bunch of new audience members, like audience and users. We're committed to supporting inclusivity, self-identity, and representation in virtual space, and believe fashion is at the core component of this journey. So it's less about the legs and more about that self identity, the inclusivity of the metaverse. And that is a pretty big deal. I know that I've been hearing a lot about that, right? We're seeing a lot of that in the workplace. But if you think about now we're going into these virtual environments, and it's like we need to be able to have that self identity and self expression. Timu Toke said that out of all the possible platforms that exist out there, Spatial was the most requested by far integration that was requested, right? Like they're like Ready Player Me should be integrated with Spatial, and so it looks they're pretty nice. Have you been
yeah,
able to play with them at all?
no, actually, I am stuck on the old avatar still, so I'm about to play with that and see how process looks like for replacing. But I think spatial and Ready Player Me makes so much sense because I think we did interview the Larval, and where there's a real companies where they almost mandate that employees meet in the spatial space, and I think they provided a space where people can do that, right? It's not a
Yep.
random world where you get distracted by random strangers. It's a room or space that you or your company can own. So it makes sense that spatial became the destination for a lot of people to express creativity by building, cool architecture
Yep.
building, as well
Yep.
as, as a gathering room and everything like that. So I
Exactly.
think I think that's cool. And maybe Johnny, you can, I don't know if you can share the avatar, your new
Yeah.
Ready Player Me in spatial,
Yeah. I was
and
just gonna show
and
briefly show that. Did you have something on your end too?
and if you can maybe guide on how users
Yeah.
can change from the
Absolutely.
existing to Ready Player Me, and I can follow that process maybe.
So what you're looking at is an early version of our Fresh Texas virtual headquarters. So not finalized, but you're getting a preview here. And so this is my avatar. Before it was just a floating torso. Let me give you a first person view. So now you can see that there is my, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. There's Johnny. There's Metaverse Johnny right there, right? Kind of sort of looks like
Cool
me. I
shirt.
just to kind of
Is that
pick
an
that.
FD?
This is a redeemable one from Spatial that I got. So this is what's
Oh,
cool
got it, got
about
it.
platforms
That's
like
a
Ready Player Me is
freebie.
that I can kind of
Cool.
pick that. So I have that. Oh, but let's say so yes, I can go walk around. I can click and you see that they have running. They have all the kind of self-expression things like, waving and all the things that you'd want to see in Spatial. So it's all rigged up to handle cool dance moves and interactions, being able to say yes and no, jumping up and down, that kind of thing. So what I was just going to show is at the very, very bottom, it says change your look. This is global on your mobile phone. This is on a browser. And you can click on that. And they have some customizable avatars at the top that are kind of presets. I can go and edit here as well. If I go to edit, it'll show you that it's popping up my possible avatars from Ready Player Me. You can see all the ones I have across all the metaverse environments. There's Johnny across all of these, right? Let's say I'm about to jump into a professional meeting and I'm like, hey, I really want to get the tie look, right? So with 2 clicks, as you can see, 1 click to open up the modal, 1 click to select the avatar, I'm able to change my look, right? Okay, there's more than 2 clicks. I lied. There's a next button and probably a save button.
Can
But
you
my
share
point
me
is, it's
the
pretty easy.
yeah, can you share me the link and maybe I can try to join the room and change the
Absolutely.
avatar right there and see
Sure.
if you get a live update there as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm hoping
perfect.
that this will move quickly here so I can show you. There it is. So there it is. Now I'm in my, and I want to show you one other thing. So I will share this, paste it in here for you. You should be able to pop in there with me.
Cool.
But what I was going to show is it also lets you say use realistic head. This is kind of new for them as well. So if I still want to have a realistic head, I can still do that. It's going to look really terrible. So just bear with me on this. But it's going to show my face on top of a Ready Player Me avatar. There I am, creepy Johnny with the sweatshirt.
Oh,
So there is an in between there of you can still get the best of Spatial and you can get the best of Ready Player Me. There we go. We were next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and click. Um, Instead of regenerate, I'll just say create Ready Player Me avatar. Again, I'm going to go and select it. I'll go back to my other look here. Let's load this up. There we go. I'm a little fancy. So here I am with Elisha, and we're in an environment. Elisha, I can see you
wow. I'm
there.
like a
Let me go first
model.
person.
I'm like a
You
model
look
with
you look good, man. You look
really
great.
tall.
So you're really tall, and then eventually, we can do things like host our podcast over here, or our live show. Sorry, we can go do post some stuff in here. But this is a Spatial's platform, and you're getting a sense for what it looks like to have avatars next to other avatars. What's amazing about this is Spatial is compatible in VR. So if you do have their native app, you can jump in and move your hands, and your avatar's hands will move. So it's rigged up to handle all of that kind of stuff. Um, so there you go. That is kind of the big news with Ready Player Me and Spatial and kind of their partnership and integration setup. Are you picking a new platform?
I am actually just going through the changing the
The
avatar
process.
to
Got it.
the Ready Player Me. and looks like I'm asked to sign in. Then let me share mine. Then I have avatars for Ready Player Me.
Great.
That
So
was
let's
pretty
load that up.
smooth
I'm gonna see if I
process.
can
Yeah.
see. I'm gonna see if I can see you change here in
Yeah,
front
it
of
looks
me.
like if you're first time and if you never own Ready Player Me, it looks like you can create it from this
Yep.
like spatial screen.
Yeah,
So
the
if you never
creation
had it,
process and the look process and
yeah.
all that is so you're seeing on Elisha's screen, what is that? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 different shades of color, right? For your skin color. But you can change the look like your shirt, your pants, your shoes. You can go and change if you want a hat, some type of hat, if you want a full bodysuit that looks like kind of interesting as a monster.
When I customize in that screen, is it updating my global avatar in Ready Player
It
Me, or is it
is.
just
Well,
okay?
you can have different looks across different metaverse platforms, and so it's now integrating that one. This one is now your go-to one for Ready Player Me. But like you saw in mine, it showed all my other environments. I can say, let me just grab the one I'm using over at Somnium Space, right?
Or
So
what?
now I can see. I went back and forth.
Oh, okay,
Oh, I
okay.
think you have to
Save.
select it. There you go. So you hit save, and now I can see that we're both there as avatars. So that's how quick it was to do that on the fly. Maybe we'll do a quick. You look good. There you go. There's our quick preview of Ready Player Me with Spatial. And sometime soon here, we will invite you to this space, and we'll maybe want to host something. Probably run our show here in the future. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. If you're interested in that, please let us know. All right, and with that, let's jump on to the next topic, Elisha, which is I feel like I've heard this now a few times in the news. So I'll put it up on the screen. It says couple gets married in the metaverse. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so let's start with the maybe one step before the getting married in metaverse. So ever since the pandy started, people have seen the Zoom wedding, and Leah and I have actually attended one of them because we were not physically invited. It was like exclusive event where they invited just a few smaller group of people into the wedding, and that's for the safety, right? You don't want to have all these people packed in the same room, and also couples struggle to find a venue. Even maybe they encountered cancellations, and maybe they had to find like a last minute one where they can get a small one instead of the big one. And so this concept of Zoom wedding, and it's even a phrase that you can type on the Google to get the idea of like what the Zoom wedding is. Basically, you just join your wedding or someone else's wedding over Zoom, and there is whole like articles you can read about best practices on Zoom wedding. It's like big industry already, and I think some wedding coordinators have even moved on to like host the wedding virtually more as like their specialty, because there is a lot of process involved to hosting it on Zoom as well as in person. Like you have to coordinate the two, right? So it has become its own like specialty profession. And now we have started to hear about the wedding happening in the metaverse space. And that's like even a step further, because with the Zoom, at least you could just film the wedding and then broadcast on internet, and you could almost call it just a Zoom wedding, right? That's like a minimum requirement that you have to do. But with the metaverse, it's a little bit more complex, and I'm gonna play a footage from MSNBC News and without the sound as I'm talking about this. And this is not a first time we hear about, couples getting married in metaverse. I think we have heard in the past few times that, hey, here's a couple getting married in metaverse, and that's like the first time. The news now is more about how common this is becoming among some couples. And for example, you can see this couple getting married, and this is the interesting part that I'll touch on. But you can see that in place of the projectors that you used to see in the wedding venue, where you see couples like past life and when they're a kid and everything, you can create collage of like the photos from the engagement, from the childhood. You can create a space exactly like what Johnny was showing to us in the spatial that he created. Like you can create a room, like a theater, wedding venue, and put the arts on the side, have people jump in. And this is interesting because they even have it lined up just like in real wedding, where there's a officiant in the middle and couple on the side. And I've also seen the groomsmen and bridesmaids on the side lined up nicely. So I thought it was really interesting how they actually try to simulate the wedding scene, and
Wow.
it's not just like random cluster of people in the avatar virtual space, right? It's like literally made to look like a wedding. And what's interesting is that this couple who moved on from physical real estate business to virtual real estate business, where they help companies like Laravel basically run a company on the virtual space. And they thought like, oh, well, why don't we get married in metaverse space? And that makes so much sense, right? Like they're in already a business of it. And as there will be more jobs created in the metaverse, I think this concept becomes like much more common among the couples to do the wedding there as well. So it's not just like, oh, this is a weird wedding we tried, to like, oh, this is just a natural extent of what we already do for our business. Why don't we just, get married, since that's our business anyway? And it would even be a good advertisement, right, for them. Hey, like we kind of live by our word when we say virtual space is the next thing they should be looking into for their clients. Flower gold dancing. It's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this wedding is that you see the live feed playing behind the scenes. And there's actually a reason why. That in order to get married, and in order for out the officiant to say, yes, the wedding happened and I can sign and witness, right? Some states do require that if it's not, it still be streamed through the video feed using a camera that's not distorting that look. And I can actually, point to a article because I did the search because I got really curious about this. If you Google search, is it illegal to have a virtual wedding? And this is the Illinois version, but according to American Marriage Ministries, couples can apply for a marriage license via video conference, and officiants can perform wedding via video conference. So video conference is still the key. The only disclaimer here is that the couple and the officiant must interact on the Zoom call in real time, meaning there cannot be any pre-recorded I do's, which I thought is very funny how they got really particular that, hey, you can do it, but make sure you follow these rules. And I think that's why we see the real-time feed behind the scenes, right? It's not like completely 100% metaverse
Yeah.
wedding, because
It's like a
you
hybrid.
have to have, yeah, it's a hybrid. I guess it's a mixed reality wedding, you could say. In a
Yeah, I
sense,
think there's
right?
gonna have to be a terminology for that. In the same way that we have the mixed reality headsets, there's like part metaverse, part in person is gonna probably be a thing for a while, but probably mixed metaverse.
Yeah. So I was at first I was like, wait, why do they have to show the feed at the same time? But it makes sense, right? You have to have the real time feed playing, not playing, real time feed it through the Zoom as one of the screens to show.
Yep.
But I thought it was very funny because you see the officiants and the groom and the bride in the metaverse and in the real feed. So that must mean that people who are in controlling these avatars are probably not the couple themselves, because they're in the real world actually getting married, right? They're not on the computer moving their avatars. So at first I was like, wait, what's going on? I think the wedding coordinator team is probably controlling the avatars on behalf of the bride and the groom. So it looks like they're like right there and lined up and getting married. But I think someone else is actually controlling those avatars. So yeah, I think this space has this whole coordination team behind the scenes that's necessarily to facilitate this, and it's its own industry. Any impression, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I mean, yeah, I think so I also had three siblings get married during the pandemic. All three of them got married, and I joined one through Zoom, and the other one I was in person, but we had a whole group of people join through Zoom there from Mexico and other countries. And then the third one was also was done more privately, but there was a portion of it that was done. And so I could see like the hype around, I mean, having experienced the Zoom part of it where you can barely hear and you're not like what you're watching is just a stream, right, of what's happening and whatever, however close they got and however good of audio or video or lighting. That's how you consumed it. But you didn't interact with anybody that was also on Zoom. You're just quietly on mute or you're telling people to put their thing on mute. So I see like this big advantage of like, had you done it in a place like this, you could have held a dance party. You could have held more interaction. You could have gone to the corner and talked to Uncle Joe, right? And like, so there's a lot of interesting things there that could happen. Um,
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about this, right? More interactive. You're not just bystander watching from the Zoom. So yeah,
hmm.
I think this is cool, and apparently it could be cheaper to do this in many cases, uh, rather than like hosting a big event that has to
Mhm.
host like 300 people, right? You can just have 10 people wedding and then just
Yeah.
do the metaverse for the rest.
I do like that they picked Virabella as the platform because it is one that handles a large volume of users. There are other platforms that don't handle quite a lot yet, and this is one that, although the quality is a little lower and it looks a little bit more gamified and cartoony, they can handle quite a lot of people. And there's other platforms that can do that, but yeah, interesting to see the platform selection for that.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty cool. So, with that, that completes our three news items for today. So, we talked about Project Cambria, talked about spatial getting legs, and the concept of obviously this couple getting married, but the concept of getting married in the metaverse and some of the nuances around that. So, let's end here with the question of the week, which we have not seen yet, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on the screen. The question that we have is: will the Web3 bubble burst or not?
Mm,
Interesting question. So now that we know blockchain and Web3, I'm going to try to think about this through the lens of Web3. Um,
yeah,
but
I think
what are your
I
initial
think
impressions?
maybe we're a little bit biased, right? Because obviously we're excited about the tech, and
Yeah.
there are people who are more, just like against the tech in general, and they might skew towards like, oh, it's never gonna work. And we might be a little bit more skewed towards like, well, we hope it's gonna work, and therefore, we're gonna have more optimistic, you know, position on where this Web3 industry is headed. So I would say that's a disclaimer for viewers watching, right? When we express our opinion, like we might be a little bit skewed towards more optimistic side. But I think my prediction is that there is definitely a burst. I think just like a dot-com boom, right when the tech comes out and companies seize opportunity to make so much money with the space, right? Because if you say Web3 or Metaverse, your stock price went up. And we've seen that in last year's quarter earnings. And that was, in fact, seems to have positive effect on the stock prices. So as businesses find ways to exploit either pretending to be Web3 company or maybe actually incorporating the Web3 company, just by being able to exploit and being able to affect the value of their company and business, I would say there will be a bubble that gets generated, just like .com. And I think we will see the bubble also burst to go into declining phase where people are going to be like, see what I told you, it's a bubble, it's not going to work. but I think it's one of the tech that's here to stay. And what's real, maybe only 10% is real, right? And then that may still be remained, and over time it will pick up, just like everything is now, all web based, right? We can't imagine a world without the web these days. So my summary prediction is the Web3 will, I think, bubble at some point, a burst at some point, and then it'll pick back up with the real uh, component that actually sticks to show the value constantly.
Got it. Wow, wow, good impressions there. I liked the disclaimer at the beginning of, we're talking about the metaverse and blockchain, and we're super interested, and we're hoping to like educate people as part of it, build in it. There's a lot of interest there. My opinions are very, very similar, but I'd like to break down the question just a little bit, if that's okay. So the first thing is, like, when we talk about Web3, right? Or, and again, I don't want to make it synonymous with blockchain, but we're talking about a large number of things here. We're not talking about like a single thing. We might be talking about like cryptocurrencies, decentralized applications, blockchain wallets. I'm thinking like smart contracts, DeFi, stable coins, decentralized web, NFTs. Like, there's so many things that kind of could fall under this category. I personally think that we are in a bubble now. We're in the bubble now, as in there's a lot of hype around it. And I think I like that you compared it to the dot com, um, like what happened with the dot com bubble burst, right? There was a burst there. Similar to, like, we look at the Great Depression, we have the dot com bubble, we have the subprime mortgage fiasco that led to the 2008 recession. Those were all unique events of times where there was like, whoa, this is like a big hype, and then boom, it burst, right? So there is a pattern. I think Mark Twain said that, like, something around the lines of like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, right? And so we do see like that there's some comparisons with that. I think the other thing to mention is just to clarify what a bubble burst is, right? A bubble is when there's an economic cycle that has a rapid escalation in market value, usually with the price of assets, right? And then if you think about the fast inflation followed by a quick decrease of value, that's when you're talking about a burst, where you're just kind of like, whoop, right? It's a contraction, and so sometimes they call that a crash or they call that a bubble burst. So now that we kind of define like the category of things we're talking about and what a bubble burst is, and kind of looked at the dot com stuff, um, I think it's important that we look at the Gartner hype cycle. I often point to this, and I'm going to see if I can find this really quick. But the Gartner hype cycle gives us a good sense for what Elisha just talked about. Like, hey, it is a little overhyped. That it'll probably burst, but it's here to stay, right? He said those three things, and let me see if I can show this graphic on my screen that kind of echoes what you just said, Elisha. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can
I like
find this.
the way you broke it down. I think it was very clear way
Yeah,
that there's maybe also even difference between economic bubble with the
yeah,
hype, and there's also technological bubble, right? Is the
yep,
technology overhyped, or is it just the valuation of it overhyped? And I think I mentioned more towards the valuation of it might be a little bit more hyped
yeah.
than economy.
I
Yeah,
agree with
that's
that for sure. I agree with that 100% actually. And this is showing blockchain again. I'm just to clarify, I'm not saying it's synonymous, but it's a lot of the things we talked about here, but this is a common hype cycle for technology. This happened with televisions, it's happening with electric cars, it's happening with, smart home. Like, you can put any big technology in this Gartner hype cycle: augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse could be on here. But if we look at it here, what we're seeing is that there's different levels, different areas that it goes through, and it goes through a huge jump and a lot of hype. Why it's called a hype cycle, and then it kind of bursts, or in this case, sometimes you call it a burst or a crash. But then there's areas that go down, and then it hits its lowest point, right? Disillusionment, and then it starts to go up in this slope of enlightenment, and then plateau of productivity. It's something that everything follows, and I think, like Elisha said, I agree. I think it's something that's here to stay. I think that you're seeing cryptocurrencies coming out of this. You're seeing a lot of things that are just starting to be talked about: decentralized web, right? Smart contracts with Oracle, IoT in the blockchain, right? But there's other things that are kind of in different areas of this. So anyway, and it kind of gives you what their impressions are. This was July 2021. It's just one company's opinion, but I think it's good to look at like what the hype cycle looks like. So my summary is there are overhyped parts of Web3 that might burst, and that might affect the whole ecosystem in some areas. Elisha said 90, maybe 90% of it ends up being affected by it. I tend to agree with some of that. I think NFTs will be something like 98% of them will not continue, right? I think the ones that
Every
will
day,
continue, yeah, it's like
every
the ones that
day I see
continue are going to,
tweets of like, sorry, like every day I see tweets of like, what happened to the value of my NFT or the coins, right? It tanks
oh yeah,
and
coins for
and
sure.
lose like most of the value in a single day, and then people are like, what happened? The burst of the bubble, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's true. It's true. And there's a lot of that happening where we're seeing like a decline and we're like, oh, shoot, let me take my money out. Right. And so there's a lot of that kind of worry. I think we're starting to see a decline, definitely from a cryptocurrency standpoint. We're seeing that happen with big popular NFT
hmm,
collections like Bored Ape Yacht Club. And people are like, man, I've lost millions. There was a Luna coin. If I
yes,
personally know somebody that invested millions of dollars and lost millions of dollars because of that. Right.
yeah,
So it's like everything is risky in that sense. So my line of thinking is I don't see it as a bubble. I see it as a deflated balloon ecosystem. And there's certain parts that are overhyped that will probably burst and affect the ecosystem. But I think that at the end of the day, it will probably end up regulating and it will be kind of return closer to earth where it's like, okay, this is the actual value, right?
hmm,
I do think that the metaverse will be something that metaverse is something that's here to stay for sure. I think NFTs with utility are going to absolutely be something that's here to stay. I think there's a lot more accessibility that needs to happen for it to be around. It needs to be way more accessible. I need to be able to have my grandma be able to purchase an NFT, and if until that happens, I think there's a lot of work to happen, lots of bridges to be built. But that's my opinion on whether or not it'll burst. My two
yeah.
cents.
Yeah, I think we both agree that the tech itself is exciting, and I think we won't see it disappear anytime in the future or ever, if any. But we do think maybe the valuation or maybe the exploitation of the hype and economy is a little bit too much right now, where you see every day things crash, and it might give a sense of like, oh, this entire tech or entire industry is like doomed to fail. But I think our opinion is a little bit more optimistic that, hey, the real winner is going to stay, just like startups, right? Like if you give startups power to start their own business, we're gonna see, 10 of them start and nine of them maybe like overvalued for what they are. And then like they
That's
might
true.
go out of business, right? So I think we're in a good innovative state where people throw in different things at the market, and some ends up working out in the illusion of the value, and true value will be revealed. But
Yep.
I think we're hopeful that techs are here to stay, and
Yep.
economy will change a little bit over time.
Yep, yep. It'll be interesting to watch that all roll out and happen as it'll all happen before our eyes and but I think it's definitely I do think that it's the future of the web. When we talk about web 3, right? We talk about web 2.0, web 1.0 and what it's evolved to. There's a lot of reasons why the blockchain can help and enable things. So it'll be good to see that. So we are close to the top of the hour here. We have on the screen here. We do have a YouTube channel. It's called Fresh Labs. It has our Fresh Consulting logo, kind of similar to what you're seeing here up at the top right. I don't know where I am on the screen here, but you should see that. We also like to build a little bit of a following because sometimes people like to connect to us. We are Fresh Consulting employees, and we work with that. You can see here. This is my Twitter and my LinkedIn is all at Try Johnny. I actually am creating quite a lot of content on my TikTok account that's more focused on kind of breaking news and kind of interesting things there. So you can see that at Metaverse Johnny. And then Elisha has, man, I wish I had your thing here. TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all with Elisha Tirado, his first and last name. It's a great yeah username there. So feel free to reach out to us for questions, comments, opportunities if you want to partner with something or have work that you're working on with your company. Um, Definitely, we're interested in getting to know you and sharing some of our knowledge and consult in the process. So
Yeah, and we'll be doing the live show again next week around the same time, and hopefully we'll make it a weekly thing going forward into the future. So subscribe and hit the bell notification so you'll get notified when we actually go live. And yeah, we're excited to see all the people in the future again.
Alrighty. Thank
Thank
you.
you
We'll
for
see you next
joining.
week, Wednesday.